to the Chasing Success podcast. I'm your host, Zach Wright. And in this episode, we'll be discussing the topic of building a personal brand. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a freelancer, or even an employee, having a strong personal brand can help you stand out in a crowded market and achieve your professional goals. In today's digital age, your personal brand is more important than ever, and I'm excited to share some tips and strategies to help you build a powerful and authentic personal brand. Intro. All right, so I know I'm a little bit crazy, but I told you that I was going to bring some more personality into this podcast this year. And that's good because a lot of these podcasts I'm just speaking to you. So hopefully that's more entertaining. But let's go ahead and dive into why building a personal brand is important. Now, I touched upon this in my blog post and the 5 steps to navigating a layoff a little bit. But this is extremely important, and we're going to get into it right now. So first, let's discuss why building a personal brand is important. Your personal brand is how people perceive you and what you stand for, right? If you watch Hamilton, then you know Hamilton says, "Burr, if you stand for nothing, what will you fall for?" You got to check that out if you haven't seen it. I've seen it probably 15 times. That's probably actually an under-exaggeration. Okay, but it's how people perceive you and what you stand for. It's a combination of your skills, personality, values, and reputation, right? And a strong personal brand can help you here. Stand out in a crowded market. We talked about that. In today's competitive world, it's not enough to be good at what you do. You need to differentiate yourself from others and create a unique value proposition. Your personal brand can help you do that by showcasing your unique skills, expertise, and personality. Now, let's think about this, right? If I'm paired up against, let's say that I don't have my own company, but let's say that I put my resume out there versus someone who doesn't have a personal brand or a presence online like I do. And I'm not an influencer. I'm not this well-known person. But if a company matches what I do, which is I have YouTube videos, I have LinkedIn posts, I have blog posts, and I have this podcast, people who are hiring me in this scenario would gain a very strong understanding of who I am as a person, right? And because of that, I'm differentiating myself. One, I'm telling them I'm going to do a lot of things, right? I'm going to do a lot of things, and hopefully I present myself as I'm going to do a lot of things really good, right? I'm also going to be talking about, or not talking about, but they're going to perceive me as a hard worker. Because what I'm doing is not anybody telling me to do these things. I'm doing it because I want to, right? And they're going to understand my personality and see if I'm a good fit. If I am, then they're going to move forward with me. So think about that. It helps you stand out in a crowded market. And now I understand, and I talk about this a lot of people have fears of not being able to do this or put themselves out there. And you don't have to do videos. You can literally share different posts. You can like different things. You can comment on different things. And I'm thinking specifically LinkedIn. But you can do all these things while building your personal brand. You don't have to have videos. You don't have to do blog posts. You don't have to do all these things, but you do have to be present, right? So make sure that you are finding a way that you're comfortable with to stand out in a crowded market. The second one is build trust and credibility. So when people know who you are and what you stand for, they're more likely to trust you and do business with you or hire you, right? A strong personal brand can help you establish yourself as an expert in your field and build credibility with your audience. Now, some of the other things that I've done personally is I've worked with vendors whenever I worked at a company Kumu. And some of the vendors that we leveraged was Demandbase. We leveraged Salesforce. We leveraged Outreach. We leveraged Lattice. And some of those companies, due to me being able to speak with them, grow those relationships, tell them what I'm trying to do, which is build my own company and build my own personal brand, they knew that I was somebody that they could reach out to and say, hey, Zach, would you be willing to be featured in a blog post talking about how Demandbase helped you do XYZ? Or would you be on a panel speaking about OKRs with Lattice at the Resources for Humans event? And I'm going to say yes, obviously. And what that does for them, it gains them marketing materials that they can go out there and say, hey, look, this person who works here at this level says that we're great. You should purchase us. But on the flip side, for me, it helps me gain backlinks to my name, to my company. It helps me build credibility in the markets that I'm working in, right? So that's what we're talking about here. Okay, the next one, increase your visibility and reach. By building a strong personal brand, you can increase your visibility and reach online and offline. This can lead to new opportunities, partnerships, and collaborations, right? And I just mentioned what I did with those vendors. But in addition to that, I'm also working with partners, right? So we have a partnership at IMEO with Quantive, which used to be GTM Hub. And now our OKR offering, which we offer a lot more now, anything from vision, mission, core values, strategy, OKRs, KPIs, and all the way to operations for automated systems or email drip campaigns, landing pages, lead generation, all that kind of stuff. We offer that. But what this does is it helps build my credibility, and it intensifies my offering for our OKRs Made Easy program. Because not only will they get me as an OKR coach, they also get Quantive as a software tool that they can leverage. So when they implement their OKR program, they also have a amazing software tool that they can leverage either for free or for a price, depending on what type of features they want. All right. And then also this last one is create a legacy, right? So building a personal brand is about creating a legacy that you can be proud of. It's about leaving a lasting impact on the world and making a difference in people's lives. So that's one of the reasons that I started with my personal brand, because I wanted to change the world, and I still do. And I know that that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but that's okay. That's not the audience that I'm trying to attract. Not the ones who look at me and say, Zach, you're crazy. You're never going to change the world. That's not who I'm trying to attract, right? It's what I stand for. Going back to the stand out in a crowded market, build trust and credibility. What do you stand for? So if you've listened to any of my content, you should know that my vision and mission for IMEO and the software that I'm building is we want to build a world where organizations operate effectively and treat others appropriately. We want to make the workplace better for everyone. So every single thing that I do is moving in that direction, right? So it helps you clarify what you're trying to do as a person, and it clearly narrates that initiative to anybody looking at you. That's how you're perceived. I want to change the world by making the workplace better for everyone. That's how people hopefully perceive me if I'm doing this thing right? Okay, so now in this second segment of the podcast, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the steps, 6 steps that you can personally do to build your personal brand. So now that we've established why building a personal brand is important, we're going to discuss these 6 steps that you can take away and apply to your life right after this podcast. So number one is kind of what we were talking about. Define your niche. The first step in building a personal brand is to define your niche. What are you passionate about? What are your unique skills and expertise? What do you want to be known for? By answering these questions, you can narrow down your focus and create a clear brand message. Now, in the world that we live in today, your brand is yourself. Whether or not you know it or you like it. If you're not doing something, that's your brand. If you're doing something, that's your brand. If you're not doing something and people are seeing what you're doing is your brand. So why not be conscious about what you're doing and deliberate about how you do it, right? So define your niche. Understand what you want your personal brand to be. Then 2 is develop your brand story. Now, your brand story is the narrative that ties together your skills, personality, and values. It's what makes you unique and memorable. Your brand story should be authentic, so it should be authentically you, relatable, and inspiring. It should connect you with your audience on an emotional level and showcase your value and missions. So for me personally, whenever I talk about making the workplace better for everyone, if you listen to my first episode of this podcast, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you read my first blog post, which I think is called like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, or I can't remember what it's called, but I go into detail about why I wanted to go into this field and why I wanted to start IMEO, which stands for Improving Management, Employees, and Organizations. So just a quick recap. What I did was I had a thesis paper in my last semester of my undergrad, which was on organizational psychology, the happy, productive worker thesis. Does a happy worker actually produce more? The answer is yes. But in addition to that, I also experienced a bully boss. And honestly, I hate calling him that because it kind of gives him probably this egotistical empowerment, but it doesn't affect me like that anymore. But I want to make sure that nobody experiences a micromanager, someone who makes you question if what you're doing is good enough, or makes you question yourself as a person whenever you know that you're doing everything that you can and you're doing really well at it, right? So I want to make sure that we create organizations that meet the 21st century need that employees are telling us that they need, right? Okay, so your brand story. Now, if you want to take this a step further, there's a book called Building Your Story Brand. It's by Donald Miller. I've mentioned it several times. What he has is a site called, I think it's like Build a Story Brand or storybrand.com. Check it out because it will help you build your brand story for you or your company or both. Okay, the third is create your brand identity. Your brand identity is the visual representation for your personal brand. It includes your logo, your color palette, your typography, and other design elements that you want to throw in there. But your brand identity should be consistent across all your online and offline channels. Now, this is probably more specific to a company, but it's kind of fun to do this for yourself too, right? Like you can have your own brand, right? Where it could be a play on words from your last name, your first name, or it could be your spirit animal, whatever the case is. But like understanding what your personal brand identity is really puts things into perspective. It's almost like a vision board in a sense, but it's the way that you're showing up online and offline every time somebody sees you. Now, remember, this has to be authentic too. So don't feel like whenever you're creating your brand identity that you have to stick, or your personal brand, that you have to stick with everything that you put out there. If it becomes unfamiliar to you and it feels forced, change it. Right? We're not here to create a personal brand where you get typecast and you have to be this person all the time. Like you think about influencers, right? They have their personal brand, they have their identity, but we see a lot of them stop or quit or even worse due to mental health issues. And I think a lot of that comes from portraying to be somebody that they're not. So I do want to put a disclaimer out there that even though you create your personal brand with all these tips and tricks, don't let it overwhelm you or take control of who you really are. That's why you have to start with your authenticity and make sure that you are following those boundaries that you should set for yourself. All right. Number 4 is build your online presence. In today's digital age, we talked about this. Your online presence is crucial to building a personal brand. You should have a website or a blog that showcases your skills and expertise. I know some people who actually build a website as their resume, but it's also a way to send people over there so they can see what you've done. Because if you think about a traditional resume, it's a Word document, or maybe in today's age, it's a Canva document, and it might look a little bit fresher than your typical Times New Roman font and black and white and all that. But think about the first part of this episode is standing out among the crowd. If you built your resume on a website, wow, that's going to stand out. Even if you don't get the job, they're going to remember you, right? And it's something that you can share with other people, so think about how you can do that, and building your online presence, not just the website. You should also have a social media platform like LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. It could be either or. It doesn't have to be and. For me, we focus a lot on LinkedIn and YouTube. But we're still out there every day on Instagram. We haven't gone to TikTok yet, sorry. But find what is authentic to you. Find what is comfortable with you. I would say start off on one platform if you're new to this. So you're not overwhelmed with like, oh, I got to post here, I got to post there, I got to do this, I got to do that. Do what is achievable to you. And in the industry that makes sense. Like, if you're a B2B company or you're a B2B enterprise seller, you're going to want to do it on LinkedIn. It just makes sense. If you're a fashion blogger or you work in fashion, it might be better to do TikTok and Instagram, right? Or you could do try-ons on YouTube or whatever the case is. Just make sure that it makes sense for what you're trying to do. All right. Number 5, engage with your audience. So building a personal brand is not just about creating content. It's also about engaging with your audience. You should respond to comments, participate in online discussions, build relationships with your followers. This is one thing that I think people often miss. So being on social media doesn't always mean that you have to be creating that content. You could be viewing that content and adding to the conversation, making the conversation better, right? So that's another aspect of it, that you can provide thought leadership and people are going to start seeing your names. And the other thing about this specific one, engaging with your audience, is whenever you engage with somebody else's audience that is relatable to what your personal brand is, you're gaining access to that other person's following or audience, right? So if I go on somebody else's post that is doing a similar service as I am, like vision and mission development and evaluation and implementation. Well, let's say that I go and comment there. Now I have whatever that amount of people and their engagement rate is looking at my comment. If they like my comment, they might go over to my page and follow it, or they might reach out to me on a DM and say, hey, I like that comment that you did. I'd like to grab coffee with you sometime, or I'd like to jump on a Zoom with you, right? Be engaging with your audience, and then also think about engaging with other audience members or from another sector or another person in your similar sector. Okay, so the last one here is consistency is the key. This is where most people fail, right? Building a personal brand is all about consistency. You need to be consistent in your messaging, your branding, and your content. This is going to help you establish yourself as a credible and trustworthy authority in your arena, right? So for this one specifically, the reason that I say most people fail is not that they're not consistent on their message or they're not consistent on their brand, but they're inconsistent on their content. And I don't necessarily mean creating the content. I mean posting the content, engaging in the conversation, providing thought leadership, showing up. Again, it goes back to what you're capable of doing and what you're willing to do. So make sure that it makes sense for you. For me, I'm going to show up on Instagram probably 6 out of 7 days, multiple times. And that could be post, that could be reels, that could be sharing something on the story, that could be me commenting on somebody else's community. With LinkedIn, I'm probably going to be posting like 3, possibly 4 times a week. On YouTube, I'm going to release something every other week. I'm starting to do video podcasts, so this will be on YouTube as well. So that helps me put something out there every single week, but I didn't add to my workload. I just took a different approach on how I could do it to have more YouTube videos up throughout the day or throughout the weeks and throughout the year. So find what works for you to be consistent and then stay consistent, because if you are not consistent, then you're going to lose credibility and trust from your audience. And once you lose that, it's hard to gain it back, right? So let's just do a quick recap, because I know that I talked about a lot. Hopefully all of it made sense. But what we want to talk about is, or with the recap, what we've talked about is the personal brand. You want to do these things: stand out in a crowded market, build trust and credibility, increase your visibility and reach, and create a legacy. And the way that you build your personal brand is start by identifying your niche. What do you want to be known for? Develop your brand story so you can stay consistent. Create your brand identity, but be authentic about it and be truthful to yourself. Build your online presence. Engage with your audience and others. And lastly, stay consistent. So I hope that this video and episode on building your personal brand has been helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. But thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to comment and leave a review and a 5-star rating. It really helps us out on growing on the charts. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you on the next episode.